the cover of the book was green. So I was joking with my dad and being like, I'm going to write it in D major so that it matches the book. And he was just like, what are you talking about? We're all neurodiverse. If I had a choice whether to get rid of it or keep it, I would definitely keep it.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to see, feel or taste music? Well, musician Valeria Perbonie can do just that and describes it as her superpower.
I have this sort of, I guess, a pattern that I found in my way of being artistic is the fact that I always put things together. And I guess all of this stems from the fact that I have synesthesia, and that's just how my brain works. My senses are connected. Synesthesia is a neurodiverse condition, I would say. It's the mixing of the senses in the brain. So I experience, for example, colors and light disturbances in my peripheral vision when I hear music or sound in general. Similarly, I also have tactile responses to sound. So if I hear the sound of a violin, I feel a texture on my skin. If you smell something and it reminds you of something, a memory, like going to the sea or something, that kind of association that your brain does automatically, that's what happens in synesthesia as well, but between different senses. Mixing of the senses is the way I would summarize synesthesia.
Synesthesia is a neurological condition which allows you to experience loads of senses all at once. Around 1 to 4% of us are said to have the condition, but there could be more.
It's always been there. I just didn't know that it was different. The moment I realized it was actually not a thing that other people did in everyday life was when I was playing the piano with my dad, and I was trying to compose a little piece for my school based on a book. And the book, the cover of the book was green. And so I was joking with my dad and being like, oh, you know what, I'm going to write it in D major so that it matches the book. And he was just like, what are you talking about? And that's the moment that you sort of go like, oh, wait a second, that's obviously the way that you see it, because I see it, so everyone must see it. And I didn't know what it was for another good couple of years. And then later I found a book by Oliver Sacks called Musicophilia. And one of the things that was included in this book was this patient of his that had color responses to sound. And I was like, oh my God, that's me. When you know that there is something different with your senses, it can be isolating because you sort of feel a bit self-conscious about certain things. But then, feeling that actually, even if our senses are different, we still belong to the same group, to the same community. And that is quite, that's quite beautiful.
Synesthesia can often be found in famous artists like Van Gogh, Pharrell Williams and even Marilyn Monroe, with people using their extra sense to get creative.
Some other musicians, I've heard so many that have this condition usually tend to go into music because they have a heightened experience of music and sound. And equally, painters or visual artists, because they have a heightened experience of the world that they visualize, and therefore they need to express it in their art.
The condition differs in how someone could perceive things, such as through sounds, letters, numbers and colours. Valeria has performed for the likes of BBC and Channel 4 and speaks to us about her multi-sensory journey.
I would never give it up. If I had a choice whether to get rid of it or keep it, I would definitely keep it, because we're all neurodiverse. There isn't a standard in the way that our brains work. We're all different, and our brains are all wired differently. And we usually accept it, and it's absolutely fine. The moment that we have an actual, behavioral difference, or in this case, developmental, perceptual, the moment that brain being wired differently shows outside, that becomes a little bit of a, oh, I'm not sure how to, interact with you. And I felt that sometimes, that I would say things that potentially to other people might feel a bit odd, a bit strange, weird. And I felt that distance and that isolation of not being able to communicate the way that I wanted. I've been on a journey of discovery of how people react to the condition, and how actually they can start appreciating the condition if we, for example, if I express it in a way that is more similar to their own experience, or if I invite them onto a journey to discover what it is.
I really appreciate you coming on for us.
Oh,
So thank you.
not at all. My pleasure.